Star Trek Picard is coming back soon with the third season on the 16th of February 2023. While at first, it may look like just another Star Trek show about intergalactic battles or even a next-generation reunion, the third season aims to go beyond that and make it much more exciting. Not just that, but it ties in perfectly with other shows and films from the franchise around the Romulan supernova. Let's look deeper into it, starting with Jean-Luc and Beverly reattached. Since in The Next Generation, both Beverly Crusher and Jean-Luc Picard had a pretty on and off tempered romance, the upcoming season is going to focus on just what happened between the two characters in the 2 years since we last saw them together. Although it's been confirmed that Season 3 of Picard will be set at least a year and a half to 2 years after the events of Season 2, and that it starts in the 25th century, the amount of time that's passed by in the real world and since we've seen the two together is the same that's gone by in fiction. Star Trek Nemesis returned in 2002, and Picard returned the following year. After 20 years, Dr. Crusher and Jean-Luc will talk to each other on screen, moreover taking over the center seat. In a sense, the show has had 3 captains. In Season 1, we had Michael Chabon, the showrunner and one of the show's co-creators, who's also a Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist. In Season 2, we had Akiva Goldsman, who has previously worked on Discovery and is currently working on Strange New Worlds. He helped Terry Matalas develop the season's psychological but emotional story. We've got Matalas handling the entire ship for the third season, and his vision and passion for the next generation turned into the show's mission statement. According to McFadden, Matalas is doing a great job. While there was a generational difference, he grew up watching The Next Generation and had the utmost respect for characters with even the most minor jobs. Additionally, more on Matalas. He used to work as a production associate on Voyager and Enterprise, and is probably best known for his work as sci-fi's TV version of 12 Monkeys. The critically acclaimed show isn't just a fantastic showcase for the unique writing skills Matalas has, but also a cult fan favorite. Viewers may think they're used to some time travel tropes, but the way he used those ideas in the show managed to be an instant classic and refreshing at the same time. For him, if something isn't broken, then there's no need to fix it. Matalas said the third season needed to fit better into the franchise's universe. His priority was to, first and foremost, make sure it treads new ground, but at the same time, he wanted it to feel like the stories and arcs set up 30 years ago continue. He decided to go all in on the things that mattered to him, instead of going for straight-up fan service, instead honoring the universe the show's in. Next up, a 25th century odyssey. That said, we shouldn't expect the upcoming season to be a long TNG hug just because the original crew has returned. Conflict brings good writing, and Frakes points out some things, such as how Terry wrote about Riker conflicting with Picard, which he thought was intriguing. Much like the previous TNG cast, Frakes was one of the last actors from the franchise that the late Gene Roddenberry cast. But his association with the franchise goes far beyond 1994's The Next Generation. After directing TNG for 8 episodes, the director worked on other famous feature films, such as First Contact from 1996 and Insurrection 1998. Since then, his work behind the camera has become much more influential than his acting. Not just that, but he's directed over 20 episodes in the franchise, if we count Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Discovery, and Picard. Similarly, Frakes directs 2 episodes for Picard. Along with all of those, Frakes will also be directing the upcoming crossover episode between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks that will come out later in 2023. The director thinks it will be a concept for a comedy, live-action Star Trek show. For the upcoming season of Picard, Frakes is directing 2 episodes that will be bursting with the tension between characters we're all familiar with, something that's bound to take us on a surprising yet fascinating adventure. For some reason, Roddenberry used to always be against the conflict between characters, as recalled by Frakes, but this time, the TNG characters will be taken to places they've never been before, even if that's just speaking their mind this first time. This sense of genuine human drama made the upcoming season of Picard so different for Gates McFadden. For her, the difference between Nemesis and Picard is the amount of care and attention spent on the cast. Just that made the world differently for the show. All of the characters felt super honored in the upcoming season. Matalas' love of the franchise's lore isn't just for TNG. The big news is that the cast from the beloved series is returning. Along with that, the third season also acts as a sequel to Deep Space Nine. Lastly, The Next Generation. Although the upcoming season has been deemed a final adventure for Next Generation, neither the cast nor the director has said it's the end. Many fans have been expecting the show to lead into a spin-off show set in the 25th century and focus on Seven and Raffi. According to Matalas, he would love nothing more and encourages fans to send letters to Secret Hideout and Paramount Plus. Furthermore, Frakes also teased that the end of Season 3 is begging for more adventures from this era in the franchise. He said that, as we'll see by the season's end, that there's a lot for them to go on from. We may not see more of Picard, but we will likely see more of Next Gen. In the upcoming years, we could get another series called Star Trek: The Next Generation with some classic actors in a completely new format. Not just that, but even the cast agrees that Season 3 of Picard doesn't have to be a one-time reunion. Instead, it could act as the start of a comeback. McFadden says they're in a great place to pull it off and are ready to do it. Star Trek shows the start of Picard's Romulan supernova tragedy. Coming up, how the Romulan supernova ties to Abrams' Star Trek and Picard. The Romulan supernova is something that J.J. Abrams made specifically for the 2009 Star Trek. It was also why Nero was able to travel through time to 2233, ultimately making an alternate Kevin timeline. Nero left the franchise's main timeline in 2387 as Ambassador Spock failed to save Romulus from the supernova with the help of red matter. Season 1 of Picard showed more backstory about how Admiral Picard was placed in charge of the Federation's efforts to rescue Romulan. As the Federation called its forces back from the rescue mission in 2385, the Admiral quit the Starfleet as a form of protest. Star Trek Prodigy started in the Delta Quadrant, but because of its time frame in 2383/2384, it was placed in the same era as the Romulan supernova. Once the USS Protostar entered the Romulan neutral zone in an attempt to escape from Admiral Janeway and the USS Dauntless, Prodigy linked up perfectly with all the galaxy-altering events that took place in the 2380s. The supernova was an important event that decided the direction of the 24th century into the 25th, the Star Trek Picard era. Moving on to the Romulan supernova changed Picard and Star Trek. Without any doubt, when J.J. Abrams and his team came up with the Romulan supernova for the first time as a backstory for 2009 Star Trek, they had no idea that it would be this sweeping and impactful. While the show Star Trek Picard may have come out in 2020, the supernova became a crucial part of his backstory, of the events that took place when he retired from being the USS Enterprise E's captain. As the 25th century started out, the show starts from where Star Trek Nemesis leaves off, showing off how the ramifications of the supernova that Abrams' 2009 Star Trek created as a central part of the series were taken care of. Finally, altering the course of the Federation. The entire course of the Federation and the Vulcans and Romulans was altered because of the Romulan supernova. In the end, the entire Romulan star empire was just a shell of itself, with the people who survived scattered all across the Beta Quadrant, on planets such as Vashti. But in Star Trek Discovery Season 3, we find out that in the 32nd century, they returned to Vulcan, and this time stayed and shared the planet with their cousins. Vulcan had its name changed to Navarre to signify how it reunited because of the efforts of Ambassador Spock. Though the first season of Star Trek Prodigy is now part of the complex backdrop that the Romulan supernova era brings, could the USS Protostar play a role in what's to come? That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts about Star Trek Picard? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.